So how secure are American airports? It's another one of those questions that hangs out there. And how could this tragedy have happened? 60 Minutes 2 correspondent Vicki Mabrey has been investigating. Vicki?
Dan, it is just so horrible to even try to comprehend what happened in those last moments on the plane. But while investigators have been searching for accomplices and facts, we can now begin piecing together a picture of what probably happened aboard those 4 airplanes. I talked today with security consultant Michael Hershman. What everyone wants to know is, how could this happen? How could someone get on 4 airplanes with weapons?
Well, the first failure occurred long before they got to the airport, and it was an intelligence failure.
The second failure, Michael Hershman says, occurred at the airport security checkpoints, where the terrorists were able to get some sort of knives through.
We've both gone through those metal detectors. We've both placed our bags on those x-ray machines, and we both have probably said to ourselves, these people, these security people, are not even looking at the screen.
Hershman thinks the hijackers got by with knives and more.
What are pilots trained to do in this situation? The cockpit door is supposed to be locked before they even push back from the ramp.
That's correct.
How sturdy is the door?
The door is not sturdy. The door can be broken into, but the pilot may very well have opened the door.
What do you believe
I
must
believe
have happened?
that several hijackers got on each of those planes. After the planes lifted off, they probably announced their presence by grabbing one of the flight attendants, went immediately to the cockpit door, somehow gained entrance, and probably incapacitated the pilots, maybe killed them.
And then took over the controls. Darel Christian, a retired pilot with 34 years' experience, says that's the only way those planes would have hit the targets they did.
There is not an American pilot, a pilot from the United States of America, that would intentionally fly their aircraft into an obstacle that would destroy that aircraft, whether there was a gun, a knife, or some other weapon at their head. They would not do it.
Do you believe these were trained pilots?
No, I think these were terrorists who were given pilot training. And that raises a whole other set of issues. Where was that training accomplished? I mean, it's not everywhere that you can get the sort of training which would allow you to fly a modern jet.
So where would that training have taken place?
Well, it could have been done in any one of a number of sympathetic countries, Iraq, Iran, Syria, but also it simply may have been an instance of these terrorists posing somewhere as student pilots to get training.
Just saying, I want to fly.
Walking in and putting down your $2,700 and saying, I want to become a pilot.
Former pilot Christian says the terrorists knew exactly what they were doing.
You do see the aircraft being flown. It is not out of control. It appears to be maintaining altitude. It does, in fact, turn bank slightly to a line, and it hits dead center on. That suggests the aircraft was, in fact, being aimed.
What Hershman finds especially troubling is the precision of the entire operation.
Do you think this is the first time they ever did this? Or do you think there were dry runs before this?
No, I would guess that there's dry runs. There were dry runs. That's particularly worrisome because what that tells you is that they had resources and assets in this country for some time that may have assisted these people in this mission.
Were these hijackings yesterday preventable?
Once they took control of the plane, no. The catastrophic events that took place yesterday probably could not have been prevented. But yes, I think with greater security, we may have been able to prevent them from getting on that aircraft or taking over the aircraft.
But the fact that they were able to use commercial airliners, what does that say about our system of security?
Well, that sent a message. I think this is a message that they wanted to send showing just how vulnerable we are.
Just how easily they can do this.
Exactly.
Hershman believes it is quite possible the hijackers' weapons bypassed airport security completely because they could have been smuggled on board by airport workers. And that, says Hershman, raises the disturbing prospect that the terrorists were getting help from inside. Dan?
Vicki, but what did these experts say about why we in the U.S. went away from having sky marshals and, civilian clothing aboard planes, undercover people on aircrafts? We once had that.
We once had that. Hershman says back during the 60s and the 70s, when we were really, really concerned about hijackings, there were so many of them happening around the world, that we did, some airlines, most airlines on some flights, did have undercover armed air marshals on the flights. He says Air France will still have that. If they're flying in Africa, if they're flying in a high-risk area, they will have armed people on board the flights. But he says it's part of the complacency. We've gotten into this whole feeling that it can't happen here. We've got some security measures in place. We're fine. We're safe.
What do they recommend that pilots do? And no one's blaming the pilots for this.
No one is blaming the pilots for this at all.
What could a pilot do with a hijacker at the door of the cockpit?
Well, what they are trained to do, if the passengers are threatened, the pilots are told to come out, try to calm the situation, talk to the hijackers. Usually in a normal hijacking, the hijackers want something. They have some demands. They have some goals. The pilot may open the door, come out and talk to them. Say, we'll work with you. We'll help you achieve what it is you want. Tell us what you want. And then I talked with some pilots who said they will actually tell lies to the hijackers. They will say, well, we can't go there because the runways there are too short for this kind of plane, or we don't have enough fuel to make it there. We can go here. But they are trained, get the plane on the ground, and then let law enforcement come aboard. Let law enforcement start to handle it. But it's the pilot's job to try to land the plane safely. And what Hershman says is that they never, ever would have expected this was a suicide mission. And he says in that case, there's absolutely nothing you can do if the person is intent on killing himself and everyone on board.
Vicki Mabrey, thanks.